Okay, so we are live. Welcome everyone to our first broadcast for the Tarleton OOC. I am Credence Baker and delighted to be your professor for this class. And I'm also delighted to have three amazing team and support leads here on the first broadcast with me. I have Meg Higginbotham. Say hi, Meg.
Hi. Let's see. I teach social studies at Montague Middle School in Fort Worth ISD, and I'm the mom of four.
And I have Kelly Morris.
Hi, I am Kelly, and I am the new librarian at Emma Robertson in Granbury. After 12 years in kindergarten, they've let me promote, and I am the mother of four as well.
And we're all very, very proud of Kelly for her promotion and excited for her. And we also have Adam Hull, one of our support leads. Hi, Adam.
Hi, I'm Adam Hull. I've been teaching at Mineral Wells ISD for the past 4 years, and I'm also working on my administrative certification as well.
And we're delighted to have Adam on the call as well. And he actually, you can tell, we all have our Google effects on, and he's actually wearing actual sunglasses to pretend like he has a Google effect, because he's actually joining in on his iPhone. So I don't know, I guess you can kind of take them off to show that they're real, Adam. But the rest of us are using these fancy Google effects. They're just a fun way to show how informal these broadcasts are. And I'm delighted to see that we have so many participating in the back channel, which is Today's Meet. So if you're just now tuning in, you can click on that Today's Meet and kind of toggle back and forth between that window and the Hangout window and the broadcast window. And I'll be moderating questions that come in to the back channel. So I can see Eric Fannon's on. Hey, Eric, it's good to see you. And I see Courtney Irvin. It's good to see you, Courtney. And Lillian Henson is ready, and Paula and Dory. So we're happy to have you guys, and encourage you to send in your questions as you think of it. So as we're having a conversation, if something occurs to you, by all means, post it to the back channel, and I'll see if I can address it. We've also collected your questions from last week's completion survey, and many of you submitted really good questions related to learning management systems and social media. And so we've kind of prepared ahead of time to address some of those questions as well. And so we're just going to spend the next half hour or so going through those questions, having a discussion with you on the back channel, and hopefully having a little bit of fun. So I'm going to just kind of dive into some of the first questions. There were a few broad things that I wanted to kind of bring up. So Pam Adams from Team Ignite had a really good question about all of the resources that you guys are coming across in this class, and how in the world was she going to keep up with all of them and organize them. And so I have a really good another tool to tell you about. So a tool to address all the tools that I'm sharing with you. It's called Evernote, and it's a great way for you to track different online resources that you run into, and tag them and write little descriptions of what they are and what it means to you. And you basically can have Evernote on any device as long as you have an internet connection. So it's a way to kind of have something with you always. So that's my tool of choice. Do you guys, for my team and support leads, do you have any tools that you like better than Evernote to track sort of different ideas and online resources?
Oh, I've been taking your classes. I love Evernote. It's on my phone. I use it for the grocery store, even if I'm driving home. So yeah, I use it to track almost everything.
Yeah, Evernote's great. It is.
I have used Evernote as well, and even at TCEA this year, our district had an Evernote page where everybody would put their notes and things from the meetings and things that we were going to, and then we could share them. And so that was a very useful
about that feature. Yeah, that makes it even more powerful when you can share it with your colleagues. So yeah, that's definitely a plus.
But another one that I use is Keeper, and that's just to keep up with all the passwords and everything else for all the new tools that you're getting. So that's right there on my phone, and I always have it. And you can categorize them too as well. So whenever you're putting things in, if you want to put everything that has to do with video together, or different things like that. So it's a great way to keep them together as well.
That's a good tip. And I'll tell you what, I'll post links to these resources in the virtual hallway after we're done. because that is a good one. I actually need to start using Keeper because I'm old school, and I have to admit I still keep my passwords in pen and paper in a little binder right back here in my office. And so I definitely need to get Keeper. That's a great tip. Well, another thing too, another question that came in was from Eric Fannin. So Eric, this is a shout out to you. And he wanted to know what conferences he could attend, maybe free conferences he could attend in addition to this class. And I always joke with my graduate students that teachers' favorite F word is what, guys?
Free.
Free. So free conferences are always a plus. And I have to tell you, there's some really neat opportunities through TCEA. That's the Texas Computer Education Association. And they actually offer free professional development, like webinars and different content opportunities all summer long. So check that out because you still have another month and a half or so to take advantage of those resources. And their conference is great. Their conference, unfortunately, isn't free, but all of their summer PD is free. So definitely take advantage of that. And that was a great question, Eric. And he says thank you, so you're very welcome. Courtney Irvine just chimed in about LiveBinder, which is another resource curation tool, and that's a great one, Courtney. Thanks for adding that. I'll add that to the list of resources. All right, so let's dive into some of the learning management questions. So we covered learning management systems last week, and last week was sort of your orientation week, and so it only made sense to have our tool be learning management systems since you were experiencing that as a student. But let's just kind of dive into some of the first questions that came in. So Jace Winnett from Team Collaborators actually asked me, how in the world are you effectively managing interactions with such a full roster? And I think he was asking even a roster of 25 to 30 kids. How do you manage all of the interactions that it takes? So all of those emails that come in and questions that come up. I do have some strategies, especially after having taught this class now for the second time. Strategies that I use are groups. So, and my graduate students can attest to this. There is not much that goes on in my class that is not related in some way to group collaboration. Besides of course, their individual self-assessments and tests and that kind of thing. But collaboration is key. I think some other strategies I use, for instance, in this class is, customized text messages and mail merges. Which can send specific information to the right people so that they're hearing the right message. I think another thing that you can do is, you build your FAQ list, you build your list of things that students ask a lot that you can create videos for, and you create the video one time and you only have to answer it that one time because then all you have to do is send the link to the video. So lots of different sort of strategies that you can use to make that more manageable and not seem so overwhelming. What do you guys think in terms of strategies for stuff like that?
I'm in the middle of building the FAQ. File management, though, has been key. I've made, as a secondary teacher, I've made folders for each of my classes, and they go directly into those Google folders. And I share it with the students. I have it. You can always see the students' work. So again, collaboration.
Right.
Yeah, definitely staying on top of those emails and deleting as you go, so that you know that you've done it, or moving to a file where you're archiving those emails, because oh my goodness, just from this course, being a team lead, it's just been a definite eye-opener to how much information you're getting at one time, and how many different sources you're trying to look through to make sure you're covering everybody's needs and wants, and just getting it all done.
So true. And I think the key, too, is just not to get overwhelmed. Just, take it interaction by interaction and try your best to manage those, as much as you can. Send it out to a group if it applies to all students, and communicate. I think, when you're sending an email to one, if it applies to all, why not just send it to the rest? Those types of strategies can help keep you sane. But I do have to admit that I'm a little bit on a communication overload from this past week. I don't know about you guys, but It does feel, Kelly, like I'm checking in a lot of different places, but it's because I want to make sure that I'm addressing everything. But Kim actually just on today's meet said she has 300 students, so I'm sure she has some strategies she could add too. But that's a great question. I think a learning management system can really help you in the long run in terms of managing your class. It can streamline communications. You can send out announcements. You can use a calendar. There's lots of features in there that make your life easier. And another thing Kim just posted, so folders in Google Apps, absolutely. You'll notice from this class, we're using folders for your key point documents. We're using, your team leads know this, but we have a whole behind-the-scenes team lead area in Google where we're managing the behind-the-scenes of this class. And could not do it without Google. So absolutely, Kim, those are definitely, Google Docs are saving us for sure this semester, and Google Drive as well. So that was a great question. We appreciate that, Jace. We had some others come in about, from Catherine O'Leary from Team Innovators, wanted to know how much time do I spend designing these online activities, and is the designing more upfront or during? And I'll have to say, the first time that I design it, I spend so much time I almost make myself sick designing, just making sure it's the way I want it to be. The second go around is usually revisions, but not as bad, and then there's always ongoing. So I'll see something in a soft chalk that I wrote last time I taught this course, and I'll think, why in the world did I write that? And so I'm making revisions before students actually see it. So for me, though, that's what fills my bucket. I love design. I love creating activities for students where I'm showing them how to do things, and I love hearing from students that they're actually getting something out of it. So I get fulfillment from design. Some people would say it just makes them tired and just want to go to sleep and never see Blackboard again, and I get that. But for me, it's definitely a passion, and I think you do have to have a passion for it in some regards. Let's see. All right, so this is a good one to throw out there, and we had a lot of questions about this. So the question was, and it came in from several people, how can we use a learning management at the lower grade levels? And I saw this in a lot of reflections over the past week. Really, not many ideas for how they could use it. So I wanted to kind of bring that up and see what ideas you guys had about teachers that teach at the lower grade levels and how they could incorporate a learning management system.
Well, I know that in my experience in kindergarten, some of the ways I've used it is just by grouping my information. So while my kids don't necessarily have access to the email portions and things of the LMS because they are just kindergarten, it's a place where I can go during a small group or during even a class, or like if the kids are on the smart board, they could go to a soft chalk lesson inside of an LMS and access and do some different games on that, or access videos that I want them to watch and things like that. Also, it's a great parent tool, for parents to be able to log in afterward, after hours, if they want to go in and do an extension activity with it for their child at home, or if they just want to see what we've been working on. It's all there for them to access as well. But just, it's a great organizational tool to pull all those things together, so you're not scrambling to get your resources right before a small group. It's all right there already. You've already done that upfront work for your group, and it's ready to go. With volunteers, I found that too, that volunteers that come into the room, I can put them with a group of kiddos at the smartboard and they can walk through that with them, especially at the beginning before the kids are very confident in their computer skills, or I'm confident in their computer skills. Having an adult there to help them walk through it is a great idea.
Those are really good tips. Yeah, I think thinking about it outside of, you shouldn't think of a learning management system as just for online classes or just for older college kids who are taking online or hybrid classes. You think of it as your organizational tool And not that your students even have to have accounts to it. It could just be your account, like Kelly said, you're using it as a resource within your classroom, within the face-to-face setting, and you're organizing and curating content in a way that students can come and interact with it either on a smart board or as the class. You can project it up on the screen. So lots of different uses for it. And then, Kelly, I think the other thing too might be across your grade. For instance, your colleague teachers, you can all do PD. You can do professional development within Blackboard, and you can share resources in that system as well. So that might be another thing that you could look at the lower grade levels.
And that's how I've seen it used at our campus. We did a book study a couple of years ago, and there was a learning management system that went along with that. And it's a great way to just kind of streamline that professional development in a way that it's accessible at school, accessible at home. I think the teachers really appreciated it. So.
Yeah, definitely an advantage. And then the other thing too is that you're storing content there that you're going to have next year and the year after, and you can adapt. And that actually leads to another question that we had from Colin. And he wanted to know, this is from Colin Talbot from Team Innovators, he wanted to know how can you use an LMS to provide differentiation for students of low and high cognitive functioning. So that's another area I think at the lower grade levels and secondary that an LMS can be used. And Meg, I know we were talking before we went live about some of the strategies you've used for differentiation. Do you mind talking about those a little bit?
Yeah, no, in fact, I'm going to use CourseSites this year. And one thing I'm doing is creating a pool of questions that will go out. So I can give these to my students a couple times a week, well, maybe once a week, and they'll have multiple times to take it. I'm trying to improve their reading. So some of my students who might need special education will probably get fewer questions, a little bit different, but I can make certain that each student gets the quiz that works for them.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah, I think it can be so powerful for that type of thing, and the tools within the learning management system, so adaptive release can be so powerful for giving students pathways through content and giving them assessments just when they're ready for it. So that's another advantage too, I think. But definitely a great question, Colin. I think your colleagues on today's meet agree that that was a great question. Courtney talks about grouping within an LMS, so using different groups and putting students in groups that play to their strengths and their differences. That's definitely possible with an LMS, and also to quickly change students from group to groups is easy to do in a learning management system. So some great strategies there for differentiation. We had a question come in on the back channel about wanting to see an example of an elementary soft chalk lesson, and I will certainly find one and add it to the virtual hallway for you guys as a follow-up to this. But there are some great examples of soft chalk for the elementary school levels, and in fact some of my own graduate students have created some really neat stuff at the elementary level in terms of video content for their students, and I'll share that as well.
I believe there's some databases too that they can access. Is that right?
Yeah, there's actually, SoftChalk has, so content sharing, yeah. There's a repository within SoftChalk Cloud where you can find what other teachers have already developed for a lesson, and then basically beg, borrow, and steal what they've created and make it your own. So that's a resource too. All right, so let's move on. We've got about 12 minutes left, so let's talk about, and this came up a lot, so this is a big one. How do we incorporate a learning management system if we don't have the technology at our school, or if our students don't have the technology at home? And you guys actually are going to be reading a little bit about this in week 2 in the SoftChalk lesson in terms of access as a barrier, but we'll get into how to overcome those types of barriers basically throughout the rest of this course. But let's go ahead and kind of talk about some of those challenges and how they can be overcome in terms of access. So what about access within your district? What if you work at a district that just is not technology rich? What options could we brainstorm?
One of the things that we've done been to after school, before school. I gave up my lunch. But the other option was some school districts have provided longer hours at the secondary level for their libraries for students to be able to come in up until like 9 o'clock. So they can come in and have access to it. So those are some of the things we're trying.
Very neat. So giving students places outside of the home to access technology. That's great.
I know in my own children's district here in Glen Rose, they were able to do a grant where they have network cards that can go home and be checked out so that children can access internet and such at home. So that might be something to look into too, because I know that grant writing is a very big deal, and if you have somebody employed, or if you're willing to do that and go through that process, then can definitely pay off.
Yeah, that's a good idea, and those cards aren't all that expensive, and can be very powerful to give to a student to have, so that they do have access when they get home. I think other things that you can do is work with what you've got, and sometimes you just have to do that. If you're a teacher and all you have is a computer and a projector, there's so much you can do with just those two pieces of equipment. And actually, you're going to see in week 3 and 4 lots of strategies for how you can use technology given all of the various levels of access that you might have. So we're going to talk about what you could just do with a computer and projector. But if you don't even have those tools, then I would say your first step is advocate for those tools. You at least need, at a bare minimum, those 2 tools in your classroom to be able to start to use technology to engage your students. And hopefully you do have access to wonderful, librarian, media specialist like Kelly is going to be in Granbury, and who can serve as a resource for you and an advocate for you. But those are some big pressing issues that I think a lot of teachers face, and in fact I know a lot of teachers face and a lot of districts face, and districts are starting to realize how important technology is, and how important training for teachers is, and how important actual infrastructure is, so having the equipment. I think you have to have those pieces together to have a good picture. And we have some comments coming over here in the back channel that we'll get to. So Eric's a big fan of grants, and there's some really neat websites that you can go to. In fact, I donated to a past student on, oh gosh, I'm going to forget the name of it. It was a website where she went on and put her project, which was they wanted like 3 iPads in the classroom. And I was able to donate $10, and she had already raised like $500 just by sending it out, asking, people that she knew to donate to her cause.
Was it Donors Choose?
What'd you say, Kelly?
Was it Donors Choose?
It was Donors Choose. Yes. Yes.
We've had a lot of luck with that. Yeah, in our district, we've had a lot of luck with that, making that happen for various classes. There are lots of opportunities out there, especially for someone who says, "Oh, our district is too poor." Well, you are just the perfect district to go apply for a grant or these programs, because that's what they're looking for. Apple does a great rollout, and they've donated iPads to every student in LA County schools. So there's opportunities out there. Sometimes you might have to be the one to seek them out, but look at that as an opportunity to do something, and embrace it. So
yeah, I agree. Okay, so again, you're gonna get some other opportunities to talk about access and overcoming barriers, and I think we've thrown out some good ideas, and so has Naomi and Meg. Naomi said that their school's starting an evening open library session. That's amazing. That I wonder, and I don't know, Naomi, if you can respond on the back channel. Does that include for parents as well? And then, Meg, is this you? Didn't ISD is staffing their high school libraries on 2 days a week?
They have.
Are you on the back channel and on the live broadcast at the same time?
Yes, ma'am, I am. Answer questions.
Multitasker extraordinaire.
Put the screen. Yep.
So yeah, so we'll wait to hear and see if Naomi responds back. But that's a cool idea, is adding internet access or technology resources to the community as a whole is a pretty neat thing. James actually has a question, I think probably going back to the differentiation question a few questions ago, but I want to address it. So James wants to know, is there a way to make a pool of questions to make a randomized assessment? That way each student gets a different test. And the answer is yes. Yeah, you use basically a question pool. So, and I do this on our self-assessments. You'll notice every time you go in to take a self-assessment, a different set of questions. That's because it's drawing 10 random questions from a pool of about, I think, 35 or 40 questions. So that's exactly how I do that, James. Good question. And Naomi says, yes, it will be open for parents and students, so that's pretty awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And they're going to have access to books and computers, which is really cool. That sounds like a very neat program. Okay, so now let's move on, and we only have 5 minutes, and I'm sorry, I should have left more time for this because this is more of the fun topic of social media. And you're also covering this in week 2, so it's very timely. Veronica Barrington from Team Ignite asks, what's the difference between Twitter and Facebook? So this is a good, very good general question, and one that I hear quite often. So I would say the difference for me in Twitter and Facebook is I do all of my professional stuff on Twitter, and I do all of my personal stuff on Facebook. So I've sort of segmented the two platforms that way. But I think in terms of what I find useful, Facebook is useful for me in like sharing photos and tagging my family members and sharing things quickly with family and friends, where I see Twitter as an easy way to follow experts in my field, have students follow me, use hashtags for subject-type conversations. And so for me, that's sort of the difference. I don't know. Do you guys do you segment your social media platforms, or?
That's the same thing. That's the same trend that I've seen with Twitter and Facebook. I have seen some schools that try to use Facebook as a platform to get information out. Typically, it seems to be that Twitter, they have more success with that. It's a little bit safer in a sense, just because of the fact that it's mostly driven on the written word. So I've seen a lot more success with people using Twitter in a professional setting versus using Facebook. So
yeah,
I definitely Twitter
go ahead, sorry.
For my professional development. That's Twitter is where it's at, and that's where I get even my news and everything else comes off of Twitter. And Facebook I have found to be useful in the classroom. And as a parent, from a parent standpoint, my son and daughter both had their teachers were on Facebook this year, and since I am there too personally, seeing those reminders and things that they would post was just awesome, because that was always where I was. And I think that's where our parents still are, is on Facebook. While they do probably have Twitter as well, I think that for my class and for my my children's classes, they seem to be more on Facebook still.
Right. Well, it does bring up a good question. I mean, I think everyone uses the tools for different reasons. I think they do have value in education, but I did notice sort of some of the sentiments from the comments from the week 1 checklist. In fact, Gerald Money had a really hilarious one, and I have to read it. Okay, this is what he said. The potential pitfalls of open message boards for classroom use and establishing usage guidelines prior to opening. Despite current dogma, high school students are still carnivorous predators. And I thought that was so funny. And that's the thing, I think, that I hope that you can learn from the week 2 module is the whole idea of leveraging social media, not shunning it, in order to teach students digital citizenship and digital literacy. And, we talked about this a little bit before we went live, just, as much as it's easy to be afraid of it, it's more important for us to teach students to use it in an appropriate way. I think we were talking about how just my son that was born in 2012 had a digital footprint from the first hour of being born because we posted a picture of him on Facebook. And so how their, kids today are building that online reputation from day one. And so how can we as educators help students and parents understand how to use it appropriately? So what do you guys think in terms of, using social media not only as an effective teaching tool, but I think, addressing the whole question of should we be using it at all?
Yeah, I know in my own case, we start at the very beginning of the school year. That's the first 6 weeks whenever they come through the library for specials. The first unit will be on digital citizenship. And, that's just with K through 2 kiddos, but it's laying those little, seeds so that they understand and will then grow up just knowing and hearing those vocabulary terms and understanding how imperative it is that they be cautious and that they respect, the technology for what it is.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear you guys are doing that. And did you already say that you're using, what content you're using for that?
No, what are we using?
Oh, Common Sense Media?
Yeah, Common Sense Media is the package that we use, and they have a great website, and they have awesome lessons already done for you that you can go on and just use in your own classroom.
Cool. Well, I'll post that as a resource to the virtual hallway as well. Well, so we're right at 6:31. I want to just quickly kind of go back through some of the chatter on the back channel. So we had lots of posts about Remind 101. Apparently, is a very good tool that several on here are fond of, and just talking about Twitter and the value of having students summarize in 140 characters. Having myself summarize is a miracle that I could ever, because I'm very long-winded. You'll have to, my graduate students can attest to that. But, in terms of Twitter's use in the classroom is pretty valuable. Courtney Irvin says that they can tweet children's books authors, and it's great for ELAR. Yeah. And then we have some, where Facebook is prohibited in Fort Worth ISD, it sounds like. So there are some districts still that don't view it as a tool that needs to be used, and hopefully they're providing alternative tools like Edmodo and other tools.
Yeah, they're providing Google Plus as an option.
Okay, so that's good to hear. And let's see, Courtney Irvin, she's awesome. I'm so glad to have her as a new instructional design graduate student. But so she said that she's digital citizenship, character building, and becoming global citizens is essential, and I couldn't agree more. Those are the types of skills we need to be teaching our kiddos. And so I think that's a good note, actually, to end our broadcast. We don't want to take up too much of your Tuesday evening, but we do appreciate you tuning in and hope that you found value in the conversation. And we're going to, like I said, I'll post resources to the virtual hallway. And I can't wait to see all the great resources you're going to share within your Google Plus communities and on Twitter. And I hope you have a good rest of week 2. Everybody say bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.